282. We're talking finding Elburn, Illinois. Find it on the map. Find it in your hearts and minds. This is Best Served New Volume 3 with Eric Davies of Puff Truck Pizza, Episode 2 of 8. And you know, for me, this is the series that I'm all about supporting food and beverage entrepreneurs. This hustle, this grind is such a challenge. Anytime you have the opportunity to interact with people that are willing to commit themselves to feed their community, it means so much to me. And the hope that I can just be a little part of that journey, that Best Served can just support them in any way possible. It means the world to me. So I'm excited to have Eric on this series. So we are going to touch base on what we got into last week in episode number 1. We're really focused on kind of why you exist, your story, your backstory. So we'll dig into it. And then today we're really going to focus on customer archetypes. So with no further ado, I want to bring Eric Davies in out there in Elburn, Illinois. Good to see you.
How's it going, Jensen?
It's going all right, man. How has your week been? What's been going on in your world right now?
Well, it's been really cold here outside of Chicago. We've been doing a lot of shoveling and ice clearing, so that's kind of been my existence, making sure that it's safe to walk around here, and so we can even get out of our driveways and get places has even been a challenge this week. So
how does that affect the business? I mean, you got the storefront, so people have a little space they can come in, but otherwise you're exposed to all the elements at all time. Now, people in the Chicagoland area are tough as nails, so like a little -10-degree wind chill factor doesn't faze them. They're still out in flip-flops half the time. But give me an idea of like what that means for the business.
What that means, I mean, it's kind of challenges your creativity for us. So it's definitely going to slow down our foot traffic. There's definitely folks that are wanting to stay inside. It's kind of similar to how it's been for the past year plus. So what we've seen is a little bit of spike in deliveries when it's snowing and folks are not wanting to drive when there's 2 inches per hour happening. We've been seeing an uptick in deliveries in that way. So luckily folks have had their driveways plowed enough for us to get in and out and back to the shop. So so it's just kind of that much of a challenge, just trying to be creative and try to market the deliveries a little bit more. Our third party like Uber Eats deliveries have upticked a little bit as well. So
okay, good. I like to hear that. I like that you're staying ever vigilant no matter what what Mother Nature or anything else throws at you. So I appreciate that. All right. I want to take just a minute or two and touch on mission stories. Then we're going to bring in the one and only Andrew Parr to walk us through this customer archetype journey that we talk about. So week 1 mission story. This is what you had kind of to start. Pizza Truck, Puff Truck Pizza is driven to bring fun, family-friendly food into the world. And we broke that down item by item. A lot of really great sentiment, a lot of things that are very personal to you and the experience that people have. And we wanted to pull on that thread a little bit more because it sounded good. It also sounded like anybody else could have written this. So we wanted to personalize it. And so challenge you to kind of go back to the lab and write a little bit. And so want to pop up on what you came up with, an extension of that. Puff Truck Pizza is driven to deliver exciting quality food and value to you, your family, and friends, and leave you with an unforgettably fun experience you can only get from us. Yes, right? We're pulling them closer. It's personal. It's exactly the experience that they're going to have, which I really, really appreciate. And so I also looked at, you had several taglines. You also had an extension of this, which I really liked. And so I got inspired this morning and I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit and really take that personalization even further. And so want to take that, pop that up, Sophie, if you can. And fun, when we talked last week, I think the word fun was brought up like 19 times, like very much like you want it to be fun and loose and casual and feel good, right? You don't want it to be stuffy. You don't want it to feel forced or contrived. That was very clear. So I felt like I want to lead with that. Like I want to let people know that. So fun is our secret ingredient, handmade to order every time, delivering the freshest experience possible for those who join our Puff Truck Pizza family. So even taking it even more personal, like absolutely a call to be a part of this experience and leading with the thing that felt the most genuine and authentic to you. So this may or may not be it. What you wrote may or may not be it. It's an evolutionary process. I continuously want to pull at the thread of who we are, who we serve, what we represent, what we stand for, and an experience that they can only have with us. So we'll bring it up again later, but I wanted to kind of reinforce that today a little bit. Are you feeling like it's the message is starting to get a little more clarity, a little bit more? You can imagine your customers having exactly that experience and telling everybody they know about it. Does that feel genuine to you?
Yeah, it does. And I like the way you're going at the very end there and saying, making them part of the Puff Truck family, because often on social media, that's how we address folks. We'll say, hey, Puff Truck fam, this is what's happening this week, stuff like that. So I really like, kind of that inclusive nature of it.
Yeah, and I noticed that too. So I took a minute and just kind of looked around, like what are the threads that I see commonly, because it's clear that it's just innate in you. You just are letting your personality out, and you're doing it in that moment because you're responding to a dish that you're making, or you're shoveling snow, whatever that is, and then you're communicating with your community. And so I want to pull all that together. And what I see is these are the commonalities, the threads that clearly are just you and Puff Truck Pizza. And I think that's an important thing for us to pull on, for people to really feel that at every interaction, at every touch point. So love that. All right. What we're going to do this week is really dig into, it's called Finding Elburn, Illinois. Little tongue in cheek because it's a small, sleepy town. Most people aren't going to know where that is unless they've been there or have family that's there. And so we wanted to really dive into it. Yet from everything that I've gotten from you, you wrote an article that's coming out that's really powerful as well. It's very much a love story to Elburn, Illinois. You also mentioned that it took you a while to find your own cadence, your own way of connecting with that community, and not trying to be Chicago, but be genuinely Elburn, Illinois, and Puff Truck Pizza. And so that's what we really want to pull on. So we have, a process called Get Clear on Who We Serve. These are really our customer archetypes. And there's lots of boring demographics things where we're trying to kind of understand them from a financial aspect. But then really what I'm focused on is the motivations, where they are, why they would buy from us, what problems we solve for us. So we're going to get into that process. How did you find kind of that process for you as you filled out a form that kind of had you build 2 customer archetypes? Did it feel very natural to you? Did you already have people in mind that specifically represent that archetype? Give me an idea of that.
Yeah. So those also have taken me a while to understand. The past year and a half of opening our brick and mortar. When you're talking about the food truck, it's general population, right? Like anybody who's at whatever event you're at is going to be walking up to your truck. It's hard to build a customer archetype that way because there's so many different folks.
Yeah.
But as far as our brick and mortar is concerned, when I'm talking about the blue collar worker, which is one of our customer archetypes, I'm speaking almost of an exact customer. That's one of our favorite customers and that's a frequent customer. So he embodies kind of the image of what the rest of those type of customers are looking for. So I'm kind of using his experience as a guidepost for who that customer, for the needs of that type of customer, right? So and kind of the same thing for the second archetype that I have is kind of that like family, or the mom of the house, the food decision maker of the house. Even in that instance, most of the time that's me in my house. So the food decision maker. So or whoever that is in other families, usually when those folks walk in with their little kids, I relate to them on that kind of a level.
Yeah.
So and so there's lots of actually many examples of those types of families with kids or without, or whatever the case is, that come in and kind of relate to myself as that person in the household. So
yeah, stay with that. You have your personality type very much is very empathetic, right? You're very blue. You're very much looking to have that intimate relationship with people. Always use that and stay tethered to that as you build these archetypes, as you build your business, as you build the messages. Direct that to one individual person that that you interact with is going to be the best way for that to be true to you and not just be a marketing ploy, right? And people can call bullshit pretty quickly when you're just being sold some marketing jargon versus something that's authentic, genuine, and personal to you. So appreciate that. All right, I want to bring in Andrew to really like walk us through the customer archetype process. Andrew, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, good to be here.
All right, so customer archetypes, we laid some of that groundwork. We have this actual form that we take our clients through, our subjects through in the Best Served New series, and give them a real perspective and pull at kind of, again, the boring demographics information, yet I think it's important to understand people from the whole life that they live all the way through the motivations and kind of why they would care enough to order from us. So take us through that process. Break it down for us.
Great. So we're going to take a look at this is what we have that is going to be kind of your living, breathing document. And after we continue to go through this process, we want you to be able to walk away with something. And so up top where it says customer archetype, that's where we'll put the name of each one, whether it's the blue collar worker, the dinner decision maker, whatever number of archetypes that we come up with. And so like Jensen was talking about on the left-hand side, we have more of the warm, fuzzy, touchy-feely stuff, right? Where do they spend their time? What's the story of this customer? And I think to Jensen's point and what you were doing, the more real you can make it, the more you can tie it directly to a human being as opposed to trying to build someone out of straw, is really going to connect you much more deeply to that person and their story. And then the elevator pitch, just letting them know quickly in a sentence or two why it is that they need to connect with you, and then what's their motivation and what draws them in, and really, as you said, calling them to be a part of your experience. And then on the right-hand side, we've got, like Jensen said, the dry, boring numbers stuff. Generally speaking, what's their age category? What's the predominant gender of this archetype? Where are they likely to be employed, or what type of career do they have? And then what's their income range? And as you know from starting this process and going through the form, these are all the questions that we're asked to put all of this together. And then ultimately, to bring it all together, we want to pick the menu item that really touches this person and that's really going to connect with them. And then understand, as you're working through your menu overall, building the different archetypes to understand how to pull each person to a specific menu item that's really going to call to them and connect them to you.
Yeah, you're really understanding their expectation and their life journey from end to end. And where and how you fit into that is going to be fundamentally important in multiple ways. At a high level of just understanding that you are actually creating a product and experience that is of service to them. And also more nuanced and granular is when you start to understand the value. I know that's so important to you that you're bringing, what that cost of that product is for them, that experience is for them, when you're in front of them, depending on if it's the dinner decision maker type scenario, and recognizing when you need to be of value to them versus the lunch blue collar customer, and when and how you need to be value of them, and messaging and directing that specifically in the menu item. Again, you want to be in their head, like what is just going to have them say that is what I need in my life right now. And appreciate that. All right, Andrew, take us through this form a little bit. Let's talk with Eric specifically about this blue collar lunch customer and break that down, really understand that customer.
Perfect. Right. So Eric, you'll recognize this. This is the input from the form that you filled out. And we're talking the blue collar lunch customer. And let us talk a little bit about the age range that you chose. This is somebody that So talk to us about why you picked this age range a little bit.
The age range could actually be slightly older than that, but it's generally in that the bulk of the folks that come in that are that blue collar worker are in that age range. The particular gentleman that I'm referring to is like slightly just over that range, but it's but he's an auto mechanic in the area. He's a regular customer of mine that's here every single weekday, and like, dependable that he's going to be there. So so I chose that age range because although that's the particular customer I'm identifying with, the bulk of customers that come in with the same occupation or the same kind of general personality are in that age range.
Great. And that makes a lot of sense, right? You want to, 7 years is a good number. It's a good range. You can really narrow it down, and you know who you're speaking to, because really when you get younger than that and when you get a little bit older than that, what motivates these people is going to shift, right, based on what's going on in their life at that time in their life, right? And then, as you mentioned, the person that you're particularly identifying with in this case is a guy, so gender identity, a male. Income, $25,000 to $50,000 a year that's obviously what you're finding is pretty typical for somebody in that line of work, or those lines of work, specifically, where you are physically located.
Yeah. And too, at that age range, you've kind of maybe just started your career a little bit and probably haven't moved up to that next level of salary. So that's kind of where our value part comes in there too. So
perfect. And in terms of income, what do you think that you are competing with in terms of this particular person's disposable income, in terms of other dining options, or even if they're needing to make a decision between I'm going to go to a minor league baseball game, or I'm going to venture into the city, or different competing factors like that?
Sorry, the beginning of your question, you asked what are
what other ways are you seeing that people that meet this archetype are spending their money that you need to compete with for that revenue?
Sure. So I mentioned in the other episode that we are right next to a McDonald's.
Yeah.
So we're competing, for the quick lunch option there and the cheap lunch option. McDonald's is probably the cheapest fast food option there is at the moment. So we're competing with them on a price point. We're competing with guys that are, so the particular gentleman in this case likes to go snowmobiling and motocross riding on the weekends, right? So
Good.
When he's going out and doing that, he's using his budget for, new tires and new tracks and stuff. So, maybe there's less room in there to eat out. So there's always that kind of competition for, hobbies and other things. Like myself particularly, I'm a musician, so there's always that unending need for the newest piece of gear or guitar or whatever it is, right? So even with myself, I can identify that way as something that's competing for my dollar. So it has to be worth it if you're going to spend that money at a place out to eat.
This is good. This brings me, Andrew, I'll jump in and pull at two specific threads right now. This brings up the know my motivation. This is a pillar for us. Absolutely. Why I buy? Why would I buy this? I have a finite amount of money. I'm making $26,212 a year. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and I want to go snowmobiling. I want a new amp. I don't want to spend money on food. It's not that important to me. So this is the potential that you're dealing with, and needing to understand that is so important. So there's two motivators that really jumped out at me from what you're talking about. Price obviously is one. You need to bring immense amount of value to people and have them feel that when they're looking at potentially buying, once they buy, and then once they've consumed the product. There's three different, like, you want to make sure they go, wow, that was well worth it and delicious and everything else. But well worth it is such a factor. Now, the second part that you just mentioned, I think about it. We talk about accessibility a little bit from a physical standpoint, but there's also accessibility and travelability of the food. Because now I'm thinking about snowmobiling. Is that the snack that I take to go snowmobiling? How does that travel? Is it going to handle, negative 10-degree weather pretty well? Well, you have a super piping hot pocket. It's going to stay hotter longer than a lot of other foods. I like that. I would play to that. The musician
or if you were to come back after a day of snowmobiling, you're going to want something hot and filling and worth it. You know what I mean? That same idea.
Yep, exactly that. So I want you to think about that standpoint. Same thing with you as a musician. Like, am I going to be able to eat that product quick, fast, take a few bites, jam for 15, 20 minutes on a new song that we've been working on, and then get a couple more bites, while everyone's like resetting and retuning, things like that. Those micro interactions are going to be super valuable. So we have these motivations on there. They're very broad. You're going to want to think that and extend down price specifically. What is that price point that this construction worker, this auto mechanic is really going to be looking at as far as that's their range, that's their sweet spot? And you want to be aware of that because you don't want to over or undervalue. If they're willing to spend $12, you don't necessarily want to charge 10 and you don't want to charge 14. So truly understanding where the rubber meets the road on the value, so important. So yeah, motivation, very good, and get very granular. You're already doing that. Keep building that and communicate that. I want your team to start to understand that when the construction worker's in, they start to reinforce the language that tells the construction worker, the auto mechanic, that they're making the right choice with their dollar because that's what's fundamentally important to them. That's how you start to extend this language. So we'll dig into that a little bit more as we go through this process, but wanted to really go into that. Let's go into where are they? Where do we find these people? Andrew, talk us through that a little bit.
Right. So, looks like they're really work hard, play hard kind of people, right? Like, because based on the person that you talked about, they're at their place of work, blue collar, grind it out, get it done, support yourself, support your family, and then get out, be outside and enjoy that. And then also, looks like they spend some time on social media because who doesn't, right? And so we want
but only Facebook and probably not a lot of time. So you have like a very short window to get access to them. I think that's very fascinating and interesting because to Andrew's point, like Facebook is the obligatory social media.
Right.
I guess I'll be on social media. Fine, I'll be on Facebook, but they're not going to be on TikTok. They're not on LinkedIn. They're not on all these different platforms. So I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, and so I think the drill down here and the next level is, now how do we interact with them? How do we get their attention? And I think it seems like with this particular archetype, this is somebody that really supports you. You're seeing them super frequently. And so, the ability to help them fly your flag for you, in this case, word of mouth might be the very best opportunity to attract other people's attention through connecting on a deeper level with this person who's already so ingrained in what you're doing.
Yep. Here's an interesting thing. Have you interacted with the auto mechanic and kind of understand, are they talking you up at the shop with their customers, like all of that?
So I have an actual example of that where about a week ago or so, he calls regularly, a little bit after noon. I get the call and he says, he usually says, "Give me the usual," and that's a cheeseburger for him. And on the odd occasion, he calls and says, "Give me 2 cheeseburgers." And I say, "Oh, okay." So I make him up 2 cheeseburgers. He comes in and he says, "My boss has been coming in and seeing what I'm eating," and he says, "Hey, get me one of those." And he also is like, "This is why I go here instead of the yellow and red guy." And so he comes, gets 2 cheeseburgers and comes back, brings them to the boss. The very next day, he's ordering 2 again. So the boss liked it. He obviously likes it. So he's being kind of a cheerleader there at his shop for us, and then also bringing us more business by buying one for his boss. So that's kind of that perfect example of that, of that word of mouth, and also kind of that, like, just the existence of my food next to some other guy being jealous of the next guy's lunch can also drive a sale our way.
2 amazing things that you just said. One, I like the real quick rip on the yellow and red guys. Amazing. Just like that flew right out of your mouth. I love that. The second thing, you're talking about social equity and status, because we as humans are always evaluating our own status for better or worse. We do it. And now that mechanic has upgraded their status through your food. That is a fundamentally compelling thing for a human. And what you've just done there in that micro interaction, we need to scale that massively. Everything that I'd be focused on is that, because you know you're already doing that to some degree. It's one. But if you can do it once, you can do it twice. And if you can do it twice and you can build a team and language and a business around it, then you can do it 172,000 times. So that's absolutely going to be core. We're going to talk about that a lot more as we go forward. The ability for your food to build social equity and status is a valuable interaction, because now they're not thinking about the cost of that burger. They're thinking about the value of the interaction and the exchange that burger, that puff creates for them. Huge. Because now the dollar sign is going away. Now they're willing to pay more for that product. Absolutely. I love that. Amazing. We're going to scale that thinking because it's already there. I appreciate that. And that really brings up like what we're focused on in kind of this section of where people are, is this idea of on demand. Everything is on demand right now. You want something from Amazon tomorrow. You want something food delivered in 47 minutes. Like, you can get anything you want now. Restaurants really need to be thinking about that. Food and beverage, we really need to be focusing on that, not just in the ability for them to acquire a product, but the ability for them to acquire the meaning and the interaction and the fun and the family that they are yearning for, that they're needing, and you can deliver that. So I want you to really, really think about that. And Andrew, want to touch on the dish real quick that he mentioned. Don't worry about bringing the form back up, but let's talk about that dish a little bit. When you looked at the idea of that dish, and when you looked at the story that you kind of told, you told a great story. Andrew, talk us through that a little bit, what Eric wrote and kind of how that feeds into who we serve, know my motivation, and on demand, because I think Eric did a great job of tying those pieces together.
Absolutely. I think that, like we touched on a little bit already, some of the most compelling things, knowing your customer by name, knowing what he wants to order, knowing what the usual is, knowing what their expectations are, and knowing that through your quality, you're going to meet and exceed their expectations. I love the concept of food envy that we were just talking about. And I think that that's really something that helps drive that story too, where, it's going to continue to spread throughout the shop, right? Like, one time it's his boss, then the next time it's going to be a couple guys on the floor with him, and really pulling at that part of the story and understanding how this can just continue to grow, within the shop, and then with like businesses that are in the area, right? Because the owner of this shop probably knows another owner of another small business nearby, and then he's going to be like, dude, I have the best burger, and and it just keeps growing that way.
Yeah, I like the idea of making them the hero of your story. We talk about that a lot. Andrew's big on that. Make now this mechanic and everybody like that. Everyone who's willing to take one extra moment, one additional interaction, be that connector. You need to amplify their worth 100-fold. So important. So think about the ways that you can practically do that. Make them the hero of your story. What is that interaction? If that person's name, do it in a micro way, like, thanks, Mike, right on the box. And now that person also knows, they know your name. Oh yeah, this is my usual order. And now you're a part of what I'm a part of. And now they're like, I want them to know my name. There's layers of that status and that social equity that you're already innately doing. Create the extension of that through the brand. The way that the brand interacts as a whole will be super meaningful to that. So I want to end with this. Andrew, I want to actually have you read what Eric wrote about Mike. Now I'm calling him Mike. About Mike, the auto mechanic specifically.
It's Ray.
Yes.
Ray,
Shout out. Ray, you said?
Yeah, Ray.
Okay.
And one of the really quickly, one of the things you're saying about that kind of reward is, he comes in 20 days in a row, and there's one time I didn't have the proper change for him. I'm like, this one's on me, buy 20, get one free. I even said to him, and we had a little laugh about it. So, there's that little way that, I know him so well that I can reward him in that way and take that tiny little bit of loss that's going to magnify into something greater later. So
that your ROI is exponential. You can't even measure how big your ROI is if that's the way that you run your business. Absolutely. I want to find ways that you scale that. I want to find ways that that becomes innate in the way that your business runs outside of you, right? So that you have to wear a few less hats as the operator, so that you can take that 2-week vacation and not worry about your business, because Ray and the whole Elburn community and your team, they got you, right? And I think that's the important thing. But I want you to have you write that, read that, Andrew, for us. One, because Eric, I like the way you think. I like the way that you express yourself as well, and the way that you're very thoughtful. And so everybody in the comments, you'll have the link to Eric's article, right? That very much is a love letter to Elburn, Illinois. And so appreciate that. So Andrew, read that a little bit. Give people a teaser, kind of Eric's voice.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. The dream blue collar customer is the local mechanic or construction worker who likes our food so much that we know him by his first name. He has low expectations of the food, but is always satisfied with what he orders because it's consistent. He tells his work buddies about our place and even makes them jealous at lunch when he opens up his meal from us. He supports us on a regular basis, as well as drives other customers in the door, even if passively. He frequents our place because it's easier to park his large work truck in our lot, another selling place on his word of mouth promotion.
Yes, more accessibility. This is really good. Ray, somehow you got to make sure that Ray sees this. Ray and every Ray out there that is supporting small businesses, that is the nucleus, the very building blocks of what it takes for a business to start to succeed, are so fundamentally important. And we call people that work in the industry unsung hospitality heroes, yet so many people that are Ray, and the way that they're willing to kind of dedicate their hard-earned money, their time, and their effort to build brands, it means so much. So I really appreciate, I can tell how much it means to you to be able to write about Ray. Now that we know we're writing about Ray, I really appreciate that he's an actual person, and just want to give Ray some celebratory moment here. Appreciate that. I try to say Ray as many times as possible, so he really feels the love for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, appreciate you as always. Thanks for walking us through that, and we will check in with you later. See ya.
Awesome. Later.
All right, Eric. Good stuff. So next week we're going to get really into the handmade puff. What exactly that is in next episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on some menu descriptions, more language, some more communication, more language, more of the way that we connect now what the product is, how that really expresses itself, not just a list of ingredients. And we'll figure out different ways that different lengths and styles of message and words come across in the way that we communicate what's on the menu is what we're going to focus on with that. So we'll dig into that a little bit. And yeah, I'm excited about that, man. I feel like we should probably show people a puff next week. I think we're gonna have to bring food into the show next week. So let's plan on that. Let's bring a puff onto set next week. Does that sound good?
All right. Yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah,
I've got some great photos as well. I mean, we could always show those, but there's nothing better than the real thing, hot and steamy on camera. So
both. We'll do both. We'll do an overlay. We'll show people some pictures. Let's make sure and get Sophie those. And then want to have one, because I want it in your hand. I want you interacting with it. There's something so special that when you have this street food product and the
cheese pull. I feel a cheese pull happening. So
I like it.
This is the item that started it all. So I'm excited about that.
That's great. We're really gonna dig into that product, and you're gonna see me again and again pull. The product matters. It does not matter as much as why you serve it, right? People buy why you do what you do, not just what you do. So we're gonna dig into that. All right, that is it, Eric. I'm gonna let you go. Get back to it. Go shovel some snow, my friend, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Cheers.
All right, everybody. That is it for this week. Again, Best Served Podcast 282, and really finding Elburn, Illinois, what we're all about. Now, not only did we find Elburn, Illinois, and really how much the people of Elburn mean to Eric and to Puff Truck Pizza, but we also met Ray. I'm excited. Ray, I hope you get to see this. You matter to so many small businesses out there that need the support of their local community. And the more time and effort we invest into them, the more opportunity it creates for them to bring that dish to their boss, to their to their coworkers, to their family. It really means a lot. All right. That is it. Appreciate all of you, as always, for tuning in. Cheers.